I don't know if you know this about me, but at 17, I got shot in the right side of my face.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to get into. I'm interested in this one very much so because you was 17 or 19, which one?
17. Yeah.
17, right? And it was from a stray bullet?
It was from a stray bullet, correct.
I listened to, it was on your YouTube, and there was one quote that I pulled from it that I directly wanted to talk to you about. So on the clip, you said at that time, right, you got shot, stray bullet, and, literally near life-death experience, right?
For sure.
But later, you ended up saying and calling it a blessing in disguise, and you accepted that.
Right.
So how did that change to be like, because that's something, to go from nearly dying to being like, no, and actually when I sit back and think about it, it was actually a blessing in disguise. Like,
it was it was that moment that I think actually gave me the understanding of what life actually was. And that's the bugged out part. And the more I get older and wiser, the more I'm learning how to dissect this thing that happened in my life. Yeah. Because I live with the bullet every day. It never was removed from my face.
So it's there.
So it's in my nasal cavity. It's a part of me to the point where I don't think about it most of the time.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hypocritical AF podcast. I'm your host, Albert Fig, and in this week's special episode, we are lucky to have ARTZ here. Tour live in Sacramento, performing. By the time this comes out, it'll be the day of. So this is dropping tomorrow morning. So by the time this is out, he'll be performing at Harlow's.
Yes.
Let's fucking go, bro.
First time.
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you too. Pleasure, bro.
Pleasure, bro. So tell me, is it safe to say just straight up New York native, right?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. But I noticed that you saying like repping Brooklyn with some Harlem. Or Queens?
Queens.
So
yeah,
Brooklyn,
like I love
Queens.
Harlem too.
Yeah.
When you're a New Yorker, you feel like sometimes different boroughs, like especially for me, I've been like a wanderer.
Yeah.
Different boroughs show you different types of love and also teach you things. So I represent Brooklyn, Queens, though, because I was raised in Brooklyn, in East New York, and then I went to school in Queens and borderline between Brooklyn and Queens, which is like Bushwick and Ridgewood. So, I always represent the BQE because I feel like both of those places were home to me because they taught me two different things that were very pivotal for my, me growing up, my adolescence.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Yeah, and it's like a thing where for whatever reason, like New Yorkers, like they're really proud. You feel me? They're vocal, right? They say exactly where they at and everything where they from.
Yeah. And
so like I had a few homies of mine who like from New York, or some of them from like Baltimore, and then a few of them out in like Boston. Shouts out Massachusetts. Right. And but y'all are vocal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I don't know how many times. I mean, I know you got, even this Friday you're performing in San Francisco, right?
Right.
So like, other than like touring, how many times you visited the Bay, like just to visit or some shit like that?
It was only for touring. Actually.
Only for touring?
Yeah, it was only for touring, and it was one other time. So that's why I'm really excited, because for this whole like last year, I've been touring U.S. international markets, and like straight, I haven't really had a like more than a month break in this year, right? But it started in the Bay. It started in Oakland. Like that's a string of shows and movement. For touring specifically, I've been throwing events and doing my own independent shows for a really long time, and doing my own like mini tours. But these were back to back, so I'm loving being in the Bay and just West Coast in general. I feel like I always get love out here. Beautiful weather.
Exactly. Yeah, hard to complain with this weather, huh?
Right.
Yeah, I'd bring up the Bay too, because like that's the similarities too. Like the Bay, people from the Bay are really fucking active, like and loud and vocal for what they say, right? So like when you meet them, the first thing they're gonna tell you is what part of the Bay they're from,
Right.
And like there's different, same thing with, in New York, there's different like lingos and terms that people use. From like, you could tell when someone's from East Bay, West Oakland, San Francisco, you could tell, you know what I'm saying?
I haven't got that deep, but at the show, they went up. They definitely went up, and they was definitely vocal. They was like, yo, and I love that.
That's the energy, right?
Yeah, and I was very, that's why I'm excited to be back. You know?
For sure, man. That's that tour life. And speaking about being on tour, I've never been on tour, dog. Like I've been around like artists. I've been visited them when performing in the city, or I've gone to a city to go watch, them perform. But I always wonder with the tour life, like, is this something, do you feel like it's something people have to, like, they got to experience at least one time in their life? Or you think it's only, like, if you really have to, like, have the love for it? You know what I'm saying?
People, we talking all
like
artists?
Let's just say, like,
or just regular people in general. I think in general, I think travel is a big part of my message, because with travel comes experience, right? And comes the understanding of learning different cultures, right? And opening yourself up to different cultures.
Right.
So I think that's key in any person's life, whether you're touring on some vacation little tour and you go to Europe and you hop into different, places, or go to Latin America or wherever you decide to touch down at. But for an artist, I think definitely, especially if you want to provide people experience, if you want to give them shows that are unforgettable with records that are unforgettable, and that's why you use the word, would you suggest it to everybody? I would suggest it to people who want to be great. In order to be great, you have to be able to have a lot of reference material, I believe, and wisdom from different sectors of the world, you know, and just different flavors of people, man.
For sure.
I'm Latin, but the Latinos in the West Coast versus the East Coast have a different vibe. And it's amazing to be around it over here, because we still identify with one another, but we have also our own unique identity,
Yeah, it's getting that culture different, that culture shock. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, I haven't been to New York yet. That's the one spot I had an opportunity to go one time, and it was supposed to go. It's some cliche, corny shit, but I was gonna go I was gonna go to Manhattan for New Year's, watch a ball drop. You know what I'm saying? Like, typical thing, like tourist.
I've never done that.
You never done it?
Never,
because you're right there.
But and it's like the tourist thing to do. But I get it when you're not from there.
Yeah, I was gonna go one time. It fell through. I regret not going, and lost money on that one too. But like,
booked the
it was
flight,
booked. You feel me? Like, it was.
You should have went.
Exactly. And but I tell the people the same thing. Like, I used to live in Georgia for a couple of years before I moved out here in Sac. And I remember telling them, like, culturally how everything was different in the South. You feel me? Coming from living in California, right. It's like two completely different things. I mean, it's like, it'd be like the same way with people from Atlanta, if they want to go visit up north too. They won't, it's gonna be a cultural difference for them too.
Right.
But it is important, like you said. And you were in the UK too, right, to perform on tour?
I was in the UK, Paris, Amsterdam, and Germany, and also Bosnia.
Damn.
So I've been doing a lot, and it's fun, yes, but there's people don't emphasize the work, and it all depends on what your situation is too. There's a lot of artists that are on the road and have the privilege of having a lot of people around them to help them with what they're doing, and then there's people who have homegrown grassroots type of teams, and then there's people who just want it bad enough that no matter what any of those things are, they're going to go get it. And for the Europe tour specifically, I did that whole tour by myself. I even DJ'd my own sets.
I was watching clips, and it tripped me out because you don't see that too often. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rarely, actually. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's been a few artists that I've seen that can kind of play more than one instrument and sing at the same time, that I was fortunate enough to see them in person. But seeing that, I was like, that's fucking dope. You know what I'm saying?
And by, like, I've DJ parties, but by no means I consider myself a DJ. I'm more of a tastemaker and a curator of art, of music, of just events and vibes, right? So I'm just eager to learn, especially when it comes down to like me having to rely on somebody else to do this thing. That if I get caught on stage, like my DJ passes out or how are you going to adjust and adapt to that? So
True.
when I was getting a bulk of these new shows, a lot of my teammates, and you're going to see this I'm launching Reject Dreams TV soon with a show called ARTZ Today,
Okay.
where I'm going to be showing like the BTS of what it's like being a full-time recording artist, and like the sweet moments, the tiring moments, the laughter in between,
Everything,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you stretch yourself thin when you gotta sit there and do a show, and then the next morning you have to travel out and then do another show in another country. That same day you land.
Shit.
If you get a flight delay, bag loss, it throws off your
jet
day.
lag. You know what I'm saying?
Your Airbnb might be too far away. There's a lot that goes to it. So when I was getting these opportunities, my teammates weren't available because they have real life things going on, you know, and
true.
obviously they do music and creative and they make a living off of that too. But sometimes it's always not in the best moment, right? So I taught myself how to use a controller. I went out, bought it, and I programmed all my records on the actual DJ set, so I'm able to control them from pads, right? And this allowed me to be like, yo, I could bring the record back from the top. I'm only gonna need it from the top because once I get it from there, I'm good. Or if I want to say something real quick, I could keep, you know.
Okay.
And ultimately, like I said, it just puts me in a place where it's like I have the advantage of like, yo, no matter what happens, I'm performing. Like this, because the capability is in my hand. I took the time to learn it, to invest in it, and I'm a big believer in that with a lot of things. Like you say, how you edit. I also direct and edit a lot of my content. You know, so and that came from struggle. That came from I'm making at this time when I'm first starting doing music, maybe I'm getting in an extra $500 a month to be able to split into music. So when you need an artwork and you need a beat and recording time, and you got to learn how to motherfucking make that dollar into 15 cents.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a grind. It's definitely a thing that you could put in your backpack to learn because it's a trait. It's something you can. I get a lot of people that tell me too, like, oh, you should just outsource your shit. You know, you should do this, you should that. And I feel like, in time there's certain stuff maybe you can, but I find like passion, like you said, in that creative process, even if it's just a 15 second clip, the fact that I'm the one that, brought it to life, did the edits, rendering it and everything, and then kind of put it how I want to on my time, not off a schedule and stuff like that. It's those times where it's like, it's creative juices that are flowing. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I can see that even just hearing your music, you could hear that and you could tell right away. You know what I'm saying?
That.
In your music, you can tell that it's in that, and it's rare, bro. It's a rarity that I feel like is undermined. It's a rarity that I feel like doesn't get put on like on spotlight as much. You know what I'm saying? Because in a weird way, like a lot of times, a lot of people don't want to. Sometimes they don't want to hear like you said, like the behind the scenes stuff, like the ups and downs. A lot of people they're not focused on the truth. Yeah, they just want to, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm excited to see that footage that you're talking about with BTS. You know what I mean? With all that stuff.
And it's voiceover content too, so it mixed with a little bit of like audio from a performance and stuff like that. But it's really me being more on being inspired by like an Anthony Bourdain and using my pen. That I've used for years in music, also as writing. Like I fell in love with the art of doing music because I love the art of words. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
for sure. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
With that said, like I appreciate that because my hopes every time I'm creating music is to give people a breath of fresh air. To fulfill a void or a feeling that they might be feeling like nobody understands them with at the moment, things like that. So when I create, it's very conceptualized. It means the world to me every single time because I am telling my life and my experience.
Yeah.
Like the more I come to Sacramento, I already have songs where I'm mentioning the Bay. Yeah. And it's because these things are like the highlight reels to my career in a lot of ways. So yeah, I advocate anybody out there, like when you're able to have the resources enough to where you can delegate and trust the people that you're delegating and outsourcing to, whether you're paying them or whether it's somebody that you're just giving a chance to sit there and do a quick edit and then maybe pay them and build a relationship with them, right? No matter what you do to outsource or delegate, you want to make sure that person is doing the right job and the right job for your brand, right?
Right.
So because that has to have a consistency, right? So I think what messes a lot of people up is that the understanding of, like, in order to break the rules, you have to know the rules first. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, there's a way you can be abstract with this shit, and I've done it, right? You know, and have your hands in a bunch of different pots, but you have to be respectful enough as a student to do your due diligence to be considered elite in those places.
Facts, yeah.
And be respected by the people who are elite as well. That can say, yo, this dude is just not no, like, poser. He's, like, putting his work.
Yeah.
Or she's put their work in, you know?
Definitely.
So I believe in that, and I advocate that for people, because a lot of the times when you're growing up in, like, poverty-stricken neighborhoods, and which I grew up in, like, and you have multiple siblings, the truth is you don't have a lot of resources when it comes to financially, so you got to be more creative in order to get those results, and that ends up into a lot of people not being full believers of themselves because they're only seeing, like, their bubble, right?
Yeah.
For me, I want to showcase people, like, you might have to work hard. You're gonna have to work hard for sure. But if you have an interesting perspective and you have a tenacity and a relentlessness about yourself, a door is gonna open somewhere, and you're gonna keep learning the information, and you could get out of whatever your circumstance is if you push. You know?
Yeah, not for sure. And but what is that? I'm interested in that too. What does that come from you? Like, do you think you being like, is it safe to say, like, shape or molded from your parents to grab influence from? Like, do you think without them, do you not get this way of thinking? Or is this that just came through trials and tribulations? You know what I'm saying?
I would test my work ethic to definitely my parents. I feel like it was in our blood. Like, we don't stop. Like, you know, I could tell my mom today, like, yo, here's 30 mil, you good. Man. And she'll still be out there like, yo, nah, I'm working 2 jobs. I got more opportunities now.
Yeah.
Now that you gave me that money, I got more opportunities. And my dad is the same way, you know. He can have one great paying gig and he'll still work a second job just to stack up, right?
Okay.
So I you know, I learned that from them growing up. But I think I would attest what I like to call being a reject dreamer, you know, my brand and community, Reject Dreams, is being able to not identify with a particular group because and feeling somewhat alienated because you just feel like you're you all the time. And sometimes in the sheep society that is pushed on us, right? The people who decide to be different are really the rejects, right? They're the outcasts. And a lot of those people get a lot of no's first. Or, like you said about New Yorkers, right? Like, me being a New Yorker sometimes when I'm in different places, me being vocal like that could be abrasive to somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
That is not familiar with that type of energy. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say, like, you know, being that outcast, you know, throughout my life, I always found myself being a human first, right? Meaning like this, I'm growing up in a neighborhood where a lot of people going through struggle and things are happening, you know. And I had homies that was in gang stuff. I had homies that was hustlers. I had homies that was users, right? But then I also went to school, and there was something that always interested me, and also speaking to the kids who skateboarded. I had no connection with the gangsters. Speaking to the kids that do paintings and visual art, you know, because I was good with the music, and I always appreciated visual art. My parents could draw, my whole family, but my grandmother took me to museums, but I couldn't draw a goddamn stick figure. But that played a role in my career, me just appreciating it, you know, so... I would suggest to any and all people, like, you know, even if you don't feel like you're part of where you fit in, right? Sometimes you have to take accountability. Well, all the time you got to take accountability to the fullest and shape your life, because we're taught today through all just everything. There's a lot of mental things that people are going through, including myself. Like, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
But these challenges, I think, a lot of the times create doubt. And because we're looking at the metrics of these things through phones and what we see on TV, it's easy to trick yourself out of the thinking of, yo, I can make this happen. Regardless of the circumstances, I got it.
Yeah.
I can do it. I don't have to play victim. You know, for a long time with my life, early on, I was taught to play victim, especially like, you know, I don't know if you know this about me, but at 17, I got shot in the right side of my face.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to get into. I'm interested in this one very much so, because you was 17 or 19, which one?
17. Yeah.
17, right? And it was from a stray bullet?
It was from a stray bullet, correct.
I listened to, it was on your YouTube, and there was one quote that I pulled from it that I directly wanted to talk to you about. So on the clip, you said at that time, right, you got shot, stray bullet, and, you know, literally near life death experience, right?
For sure.
But later, you ended up saying and calling it a blessing in disguise, and you accepted that.
Right.
So how did that change to be like, because that's something, you know, to go from nearly dying to being like, no. And actually, when I sit back and think about it, it was actually a blessing in disguise. Like,
it was it was that moment that I think actually gave me the understanding of what life actually was. And that's the bugged out part. And the more I get older and wiser, the more I'm learning how to dissect this thing that happened in my life. Yeah. Because I live with the bullet every day. It never was removed from my face.
So it's there.
So it's in my nasal cavity. It's a part of me, to the point where I don't think about it most of the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Except for when I talk about it like this, right? Yeah. But I say that because it was a blessing in disguise, because what it did is it kind of like opened a portal in my mind that told me, all right, you're already in clubs, and you only 15 years old. You're already performing in clubs. You're in ciphers. You're doing like live performance video stuff. You got music videos out, demos out. I was part of a group then, right? We were kids, right? Yeah. And we were doing our best, for sure. But there's an extra gear you can go, and a few extra gears, right?
For sure, yeah.
And when that happened to me, that was like my moment of awareness that said, oh, I was in Pennsylvania at that time. So the truth of the matter is, I had my heart in Pennsylvania, which is my mother, my siblings, right? My stepfather, like my dog at the time, right? My high school sweetheart at the time, right? All of these elements. And this happens, and it changes the course of things, because when I get out a few days later, I maybe take about a couple weeks to heal, and I move back to New York.
Damn.
You know, it's not like me and this high school sweetheart were already broken up. There were fragments of pieces on the board. My family was really the biggest sacrifice, right? Because the time that I'm spending away from them all these years in order to accomplish what I'm working on now, right? And manifest these things that have came into fruition. So for me, that was the biggest sacrifice. But it was an understanding that I had with myself at a very young age. I don't know why I was thinking like this per se, but the understanding was like, yo, I know my mother is such a pillar in my life that just for my safety, this moment is going to make her always want to protect me and always want to shelter me. And I understood that behavior, even though loved ones care for you, that behavior in some manner could be enabling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
To the point where I end up a 37-year-old man, and I'm still living with my mother, and I'm stressed, and I don't got a job, or I don't want to go outside because I'm scared of almost being killed again or something like that.
I mean, both ends, right? She's probably scared, you scared, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was scared of being enabled more, and I knew my mom was always going to love me and hold me down, right? Yeah. But I sat there and made that conscious choice of, yo, I need to go to New York and really put this thing into a different gear and go all out and build a foundation for myself to be able to stand on, so that if all resources go, I'm able to continue to do it.
Damn. Yeah.
You know, and if I could do it in New York, I could do this shit anywhere. Like,
for sure. Yeah.
I believe it. It's a super expensive city. You gotta have hustle and bustle. The 24 hours, everything. You know, so you gotta jump into that different mode. And I made that decision. And at first, it was real tough, man. I bet. I was dealing with things I couldn't even identify at this age, right? PTSD, trauma of all sorts, depressions. I looked out of whack. I felt out of whack. I'm working jobs that in New York City, there's constructions and scaffolds. And whenever big, loud noises happen, I'm catching like flash moments.
Triggering.
And I didn't even know how to identify it. And because I'm from the hood, you know, people told me to go to a therapist, but when I tried to do that, it felt like invasive, felt like I was being judged, you know? So I was like, you know what? I had to internalize it and like fight that war within and kind of like deal with it myself. But me flying away from the nest and learning how to like grow and fly on my own, it's like the mother teaches the bird to fly, but then on the first course, but then it's like you got to go on this one by yourself. I think that is what I was doing. In a metaphor or whatever, and that's why it was a blessing.
I mean, it's tough to, you know, outside people looking in, or maybe just hear that first, maybe kind of will stump them. Like my first time hearing it, I was like, damn, a blessing in disguise. It's the shift, it's that pillar that you said, you know, that was a trajectory point that's you can either go this way or you can go that route, you know what I'm saying? Right. So I mean, shouts out to you. You feel me? Just from even bouncing back from something like that. Shouts out to you for fucking just making it. You know what I'm saying? And credit to your moms. You know what I mean? Credit to both your parents. And that's why I asked initially, you know, if you feel like that was like a, like, you know, a testament to them or not. Because I know you were saying she was a B girl and a singer too.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Every one of my pillars were my mother, father, and grandmother. You know, my mother and father's work ethic, my mom's creativity. Even when I was a kid, I liked wrestling, and some of the toys we couldn't maybe afford or they didn't come out yet. And she would draw the characters and then sew the fabrics of the same color of the wrestler's outfit onto construction paper. So these things opened my imagination, you know, as a kid, and made me want to like be into more creative stuff. I was like born in it, you know. So, and this is 90s hip-hop era. My mom with the A-ball jacket, my father with the big you know, Cuban on. Like this was that type of era. Being from Brooklyn to Brooklyn, Queens, and seeing the different characters that were in the hood, it's like it feels like a movie when I think back to it, right? And that inspired me a lot. But what really inspired me too, for the love for words, because music I always loved, but the love for words was being at my grandmother's house. No TV time. You got to eat dinner at 8, but you got to read this book. And if I'm going to speak to you and with this vocabulary and you don't understand this word, I'm going to need you to write that shit 5 times each. Puerto Rican, strict Puerto Rican.
It builds character.
It builds character, and it allowed me to start associating with different words, to be able to, and start reading stories and dudes like Edgar Allan Poe at like fucking 14, dog, 13, maybe younger, like 9, 10.
Yeah.
I'm reading Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, like Stephen King, you know. So I'm reading stuff like that, and it's like, yo, I'm falling in love with literature now, you know. So I actually started becoming more psyched when I go to English class now. I'm like, yo, I'm able to, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was one of my favorite topics in school, because it opened the door for that innovation and creativity, to be able to sit there and say, okay, this is storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, these are words, different words I could use to express this one thing, and I could do. So when I started doing that and mixing that with the music, and then I always had a knack for freestyling. So, you know, I compare it to like doing reps in the gym. You know what I'm saying?
Repetitions. Like you said, muscle memory, getting it in, doing it multiple times. Yeah. No, I feel you on that. Yeah, definitely. I feel you on that one. And it's like, I mean, New York historically, I mean, everybody has different coasts and you know, parts of the world have their own bias. But I think universally, everybody says, you know, hip hop, it's New York. You know what I mean? Like, born from New York, right? It's fair to say?
Yes.
I think the eras, like the 90s eras, 2000s, early 2000s, you know, and even the past decade, right? The shift in music has, at least outside looking in, right? This was good. Is like, I'm from California, right? Born here in California, raised here in California. And to talk about my perspective from New York and Cali, right? So this is just for me. At any point, did you feel like, all right, pressure to constantly adapt with the style of music? You know what I'm saying? Like from the 90s, early 2000s, or you just kept it just you?
Yeah, the way I started creating music was like a very interesting way because you know how people used to sing in the shower?
Yeah. I literally did that last night. I'm not even kidding. I did that shit last night.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So I used to do that as a kid.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was kicking raps, but mixed with like some Phil Collins melodies, probably. Or something like 808s and Heartbreaks type shit when I was a kid, probably.
Yeah.
You know, and that is what always pushed me for like creativity and music. Like when something I used to do as a kid too, which I look back now and I'm like, wow, that was really interesting. I used to jump into different genres of music and go to like, you know, whatever publication that wrote an article about like top 50 albums in like that genre.
Yeah.
And then I would go listen. And I'm talking about like
everything
deep. I'm talking about everything from hip hop that came before me. I'm talking about, you know, Tupacalypse Now, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Erykah Badu, Nina Simone,
Come on now.
Chet Baker,
Damn.
Dizzy Gillespie. I'm going like into jazz, into all types of music, and even if I didn't like the albums, right, with people, I would sit there and be like, why do people consider this great? You know,
So dissect it too, intaking it, enjoying it, dissecting it,
listening to it again to see if I missed anything. You know, especially when you're growing up and you love hip hop and R&B, like when you listen to rock and stuff like that, you might not be always accustomed to that. So when I'm listening to like Pink Floyd, I'm like, wow, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what to identify with, you know?
Yeah.
When I'm listening to Coltrane, it's like, wow, this is beautiful. This doesn't necessarily feel like hip hop, but it feels like hip hop comes from it somehow. And I could rap on this shit too.
Yeah.
And, you know, that led me down just a rabbit hole of like, you know, rapping the Jay Dilla beats and then transforming over time and saying, yo, I'm going to rap on the Jay Dilla shit, but I'm also just like sing this part here and do a melody right here and create this bridge. And this next song might be like some R&B pop vibe. This other song might be some boom bap.
Yeah.
You know, like, so just mixing it up. I've always been a person of flavors. I never like to limit myself. And I want to suggest doing everything for everybody because not everybody's good at everything.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. And mad respect to that.
But when it's your nature to like, it's my nature to like remix things. Like I was a kid that's like getting my homie to like airbrush my shoe. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm the person that goes to motherfucking a restaurant and be like, let me get the ranch sauce and mix it with the hot sauce.
Yeah, don't tell me you were doing the French fries with the snow cones or
with the Oreo McFlurries.
Yeah, you was doing that.
I never did. Well, I've done it. I've tried it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a regular.
It ain't for me.
It's all right, actually. But you got to be kind of like drunk or like high.
Yeah, like you died or
you know, you regret it instantly though.
Yeah. But intentionally doing it is wild though. Intentionally like, I want this one right now. I'm craving this right now. That's wild.
I've heard that most from like pregnant women. I think the French fries and the McFlurry.
Random shit like when my girl was pregnant, it was like pickle juice, random chocolate like at 11 p.m. I'm like, I'm down. You know, like
what is good is, have you ever had like, and I always frowned on it at first, but it's actually pretty good. You ever had like the Raisinets in the popcorn? Like chocolate?
No, I have not.
Yeah, it's a vibe because you get the sweet and the salty. Like
I have not. I feel like maybe I might have done it like 1 or 2 times now that I think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Nah, that shit grew with me over time.
Okay, for sure. I mean, so like, so that just hearing it too, like the way I'm interpreting it too, bro, is like you do have that creative juice because it's all around you. It's all from what you do and from your day to day stuff, you know, and like curating, directing, hosting, all that. It builds character for one, right? And it also shows like your reach, right? Like I like when I talk about from the podcast, not to make it about me, but I don't like to limit myself for just like a category or limit myself to a guest that I can't have or limit myself into what they call a niche, right? So it's kind of contradictive and it depends on how you look at it. Like I wouldn't say my podcast exactly fits in one niche. But then if you talk to like podcast extras or CEOs or freaking people who do the SEOs, they'll say, make sure you get your niche down, you know? And
I suffer from the same thing,
right?
and it's versatility, but there's not a one size fits all type of theory, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of things that are successful have common traits, but not everything has the same trait.
Facts.
You know, and I guess we're just hypocritical as fuck. Yeah?
Exactly. That's what it's all about.
You know? Not for real. And that's what intrigued me for the podcast, because when my team brought it back to me and showed me like some of the different platforms and stuff, I was like, okay, let me watch. I dive in and I watch. That's what I probably shot you a follow already.
Oh yeah. Did you? Oh,
I believe so, because I was like, yo, I'm gonna go research, and then what I seen, I actually really enjoyed, because I was like, okay,
I appreciate
this
that,
dude is interviewing music lovers, psychiatrists, different people, fathers, brothers, musicians, like, so I love that because it adds like a different introspective thought to an interview, and I think, you know, keep pushing the envelope, man. That's what I would say. Keep pushing the envelope, because people easily forget the shit that wasn't special.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think too about like the you know, the range that I got for like the people that I bring on. Another key thing too is like I don't just accept every single one that comes in, right? Like I get people that reach out to me, a lot of artists too. And I don't want to fake anything, bro. It's not in me to be fake, right? So like if I bring you in, I want to talk to you. I want to know the stories, and I enjoy their music thoroughly, you know. So you'll see. I mean, throughout every artist that I've had on, bro, I'll just be playing their shit. I'm talking about when I'm in the shower, when I'm in the whip, or if I go to someone's house and, you know, everybody's just putting in the YouTube shit, I'll be like, yo, check this artist out. And I've done that for people that have been on my podcast, you know. So like I said, the deep that I've done for you too, and seeing the music, and I'm loving the behind the scenes stuff they're shooting. You're doing a lot of the shooting, right? Yeah.
So if you've been watching recently, Patch been on tour with me, and we've been shooting it up.
Yeah, you know? I've been enjoying it, because it's a personality. Like you get the artist, and you get the actual personality of the artist too, to highlight the two. You know what I mean? To focus on what you're doing. You feel me? So outside looking in, we could see that. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. Yeah, it's about being personable. You know? And it's about I think what you were just talking about is super important and very overlooked in today's day and age. And it's having integrity. Yeah. To be able to speak up and say, hey, I'm not really feeling this. Or I think it could be better. Or I think I could be better on this.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think a lot of people, we've diluted a lot of things. And I was just talking to that. I talk to people about that type of stuff all the time, because I think it's really important to identify a person's taste and standard when they do speak up for the things, and they are curated and selective with where they eat, what music they listen to. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, some people could be like, oh, you're snobbish, and I don't consider myself snobbish, because I like things that I consider great and good, right? Like that make me feel good. So it doesn't mean that you got to be super lyrical miracle, right? Don't get me wrong, some of my favorite rappers of all time, Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, right, Andre 3000, but I still got cats like Future, who has super talent of his own in writing and melody, and how he accentuates on the track, his emphasis and his pocket, you know. So I think I always looked at music or creativity as kind of like the X-Men, and that's why I always compare Reject Dreams to, like, it's like a universe of that. My whole motivation and hustle is like, I'm gonna put on for the Rejects, so I'm gonna put myself on, but I'm gonna also put on for other people who I think are superheroes that might have that super talent that's not the same for me, but they do that and they nasty with it, you know, and they special, you know.
Reject Dreams, that's a brand, right?
Yes, sir. That's what you're seeing behind the personable content. Is me just, you know, because for the most part, I'm not like a social media guy. Like, I'm not like, hey, look at me dance on camera. Like, I'm the same, even though I like dancing, when you come to the show and you see the vibe.
I see you in the crowd.
Yeah, I'm in the crowd. I'm dancing. I'm vibing. But I don't like to like play dress up, like with like, hey, look at me, Instagram. You know, so I want it to feel natural. So even this type of content, I'm not only doing it because sure I enjoy it, but I think I'm doing it more because I know it's needed.
Yeah.
For people to see, for humans to see.
Well, the community that you're building, it's a brand, but it's also building a like I said, a community for people to come together, maybe talk about their stories in it, maybe express what they've been rejected from, or maybe like, hey, this is a place where music lovers can come together, book lovers, art lovers. You know what I mean? It's a place overall that everybody can get behind. You know what I'm saying? So, how did that come about? Like, is that? I mean, shit, you've been doing this as a teen. You know what I'm saying? Like, what was the idea of Reject Dreams like based out of, and like where did it come from?
I think it was the understanding that I had a lot of different people in my life that were from different places and like different backgrounds or thought differently.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like what I was saying. I was cool with the hustlers and then also cool with the nerds. You know.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it came for that because what I noticed over time of making music, right? At first, that was a thing of me expressing myself. I felt misunderstood.
Yeah.
But then I started noticing that the message and the mission I was pushing, people identify with that even if not more than even just the music, because it's something that I think I always compare it to like a DNA strand. You know, it's like something like, or a blood type, right? Like you're this type of blood type. I think people go through things, and when they could align with something, they speak about it, and they talk about it in a little bit different way than just mentioning your music, right?
Yeah.
And I then had to like embrace that role and responsibility as some would say a leader or, you know, being standing for something.
Yeah.
Right. Just to give an example, like the other day I had a fan that actually watched me perform in the Bay last year, and she DM'd me and just asked me advice about some stuff she was going through in a relationship. Yeah. Right. And how she should deal with it because she necessarily didn't feel like she was being appreciated as much as she was worth and her own self-worth.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, like, there's not a lot of rappers out there that's probably like responding to these DMs and telling people like keep their head up and like chin up and, you know, giving some sort of guidance, right? And if I would think of them, it's probably like dudes like J. Cole or Kendrick or like, you know, and I'm sure they're not checking every damn DM, you know. I have that luxury somewhat sometimes to check DMs and kind of like see what's up. But I've embraced that because and that's where that comes from, because over that journey, I was meeting people that they felt like this thing was as much theirs as it is my baby and passion project, and it is
because they're getting attached, right? Like in a good way, not like on some weird. Like they're just they're really enjoying you, your music, your messaging, and everything, and it's like it's the attachment piece of it, right? That's going to it. And that's vulnerable for them too, you know, to even open up in something like that to, you know, one of their favorite artists, because it's like, if you think about it, it might be on paper, it's a lot easier maybe to just go to, you know, your mom's, your homie, your sibling, you know. Right. But then again, maybe it can't. Right. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not as easy as that. But the fact that she opened up to you, you know what I'm saying? That's vulnerability.
It's true. And I was just telling the Reject Patch this right now too, that being in that role of leadership, right? It's a tightrope walk, because when people trust you that much and they have that much vulnerability with you, it's easy to also disappoint them. Okay. Because in their mind, you could be like a great model, right? Yeah. But you're human too. Yeah. So growing into my career and my manhood just as a man, I had to identify that too. And I can't be perfect for everybody. I can only be myself. But it made me learn how to understand that I have that responsibility of carrying myself in certain manners, even when I'm upset, saying things to people in a certain way so I don't break their heart or like, you know. And it was tough because my father, my grandmother, the people that I told you I learned from, they show love as tough love. So I didn't have like an easy hand with that. Like my mom was a little bit more nurturing, but I didn't have an easy hand with that. So life has brought me on this journey where I actually have to learn that opposite side of that, of being gentle and grace with leadership, and have grace with leadership, you know?
No, I feel exactly where you're coming from. I feel it's crazy. I'm getting a lot of similarities within myself too. Just hearing you talk. I mean, to
Sure.
even if I go back about like when you're talking about like being with the hustlers and the skaters, right, bro? Like where I was at, I was being mixed with like the gangsters, and I was cool with like the rock emo motherfuckers. You know what I mean? And then cool with the skaters. And like one time, like I remember I was about to get down, and it looked like these motherfuckers were gonna try to jump me. So I was like, it is what it is. We gonna squabble, do whatever. And I had my rock homies that would just they kick in front of the 7-Eleven, and they're like, yo, do you want us to get your bag? And I'm like, oh yeah, if y'all are down, and, But the fact that I was cool with like all this stuff, right? So that's why I listen to a bunch of my music genre, like the range that I got. It's like I'll go to a show one day, and then the next day I'll go to a silent disco, and then that Friday I'll go to a rock concert because I like listening to a bunch of different music,
Right.
I feel you on that, and I feel you for like the tough love, right? Because I like to. There's a quote that I hear. I don't know if you cool with like not cool, but like, are you a fan of Charlemagne? Some people,
Charlemagne the God.
Yeah,
I think he's a leader at what he does.
Yeah.
Some people might not like an opinion or two from him, but you're not gonna agree with anybody's opinion.
Right?
100%
Yeah.
of the time,
And the reason why I said because some people because I'm a fan of his. Like I enjoy him now, like the journey that he's on right now.
I'm a fan of him too.
Yeah, the journey that he's talking about, the messages that he pushes and everything that he does now.
He's a pioneer too in this whole podcasting.
Exactly, right. Personality, every radio and everything, right?
Pioneer.
But I talk about the reason why I ask people that because some people be like, man, I don't like him because of this or his takes on this, and I was like, I get, but if you separate, the hot takes and all this stuff, I'm talking about him as a person and the messaging that he does, I think is fucking phenomenal. But there's a quote that he always says, and I don't know if it's exactly him or maybe someone else, but he says smart people learn from the mistakes, wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And that's something that I take because I could have back to, like I said, with my family too, their way of, they don't really show love like maybe the way I do because I have a son, the way I do with my son, because I learned from what they didn't do and I apply it to that right now currently. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, that quote applies very much to that situation. But I think in this day and age too, we don't celebrate failure enough. The truth is, when you don't have people to get any wisdom from, when the circle is like kids teaching kids, my mom had me when she was very young, and she also had to raise 5 other siblings because her mom passed away young. So if they don't know better, sometimes they won't do better, and because and my family has done a great job. They've moved themselves out of that cycle, and now I'm grabbing that torch and pushing that forward as well. But there's things that you miss in some generations,
That's true.
And
That's
the
true.
information could be one of those things. So I believe in learning from failure and not working as hard and as wise as possible from not making those same mistakes 2 or 3 times. So learn from your mistakes, for sure. Don't create that to be a routine. And I think that's the biggest thing for me lately, creating good habits. When you create good habits, it's like you're reprogramming yourself. It's almost like how is it snakes that regenerate?
Yeah. The skins and everything,
Right. When they shed skin, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think we do that as humans too, spiritually, physically. And these are different things so you just got to keep growing, keep being open-minded, learn from others for sure, be observant, see what worked for other people, what didn't. But ultimately, it's going to come down to you, trying it yourself and seeing how it works for you.
For real.
And how it makes you feel too, because some people, their approach might be so different from yours because they may be so comfortable in one way.
Yeah.
Right? Versus your approach might be more like, hey, I'm going to kick back and just wait for this thing to kind of like brew and create something.
True.
Certain people's approach, like let's say a guy like 50 Cent, his approach eventually had to be like, move out my way.
Yeah, because he had to.
Right, but not everybody could do that same approach.
Exactly.
So you got to find what works for you for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's also, to even circle back to what I asked earlier about like, the adaptation of music, going from 90s to early 2000s and everything. Right now, what's really hot, again, this is outside looking in, but it's like drill. Drill's like the thing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know you linked up with the UK artists out there.
Yeah. Shouts to ARTZ Gambino.
Which the visuals, looked amazing, by the way, too.
Thank you.
That shit was fire. But
it's like non-scripted video right after the show.
Damn.
We just vibed.
Just did it on the fly like that.
Yeah.
That's super dope, man. And so I see that even that drill is expanding. You know, the UK has a version of it and everything. And I was wondering what that was like. How do you feel pressure in that too? Like to jump to that, adapt to that? You're like, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that.
Nah, I've been doing drill sound and stuff. I was in Chicago when like 3 weeks before Chief Keef Pop took over the world.
Yeah. Damn.
Like literally. And
Damn.
people were showing us his videos of him being on house arrest in his grandmother's house. So I understood the origin, the culture of it.
Yeah.
If you go back, might be on YouTube. Me and my Chicago homies had a record, and maybe, what was this? Maybe freaking 8 years ago.
Damn.
That was a drill record. You know?
8 years ago. Damn.
So it was just a Chicago drill record, right? And then New York created this other mixture of inspiration from that. London drill has its own flavor. So I just look at music like music, right? And the most important thing for me making that move to do a collaboration in the UK is what we talked about, traveling and experiencing, opening the horizons of the types of fans I'm going to have, you know what I'm saying? And also embracing another artist that is young, coming up in a different market that hasn't hit America yet.
Yeah.
And showing the little rejects love, the little homies, the homies that is 20 years old that they don't want to accept the reality of being in the trenches and having to live that life. They see something bigger for themselves too. You know, and him being a Gambian artist, a UK resident, right? I just felt like it was only right to open up that door, because right now I also have a drill record that's a drill soul record, and it's with a legendary act. You know, with Styles P. That's out.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was gonna talk about that one too.
Yeah, more Dilla. So even that is a showcase of I can mix, in the words of Prodigy, RP, from Mobb Deep. You know, you can mix the food with the medicine. You know, I have a friend that always used to say that line, and that shit is the truth to this day. I could sit there and still be me.
Yeah,
ARTZ. The person that's going to conceptually talk about this, and this, but still be able to be on this type of record and blend right in, because I do me so well.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the beat that makes, like, it's like that, you know, it's not on me, it's in me. Like, yeah, I'm fresh, but it's not literally the clothing on my body. It's the style and the perspective on how I'm looking at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean with that one. Yeah, because the music, I agree, bro. Like, the music is there. It's you know, you don't want to be caged or like, you know, put that in there like categories in the beats. And so the reason why I say that too, and I bring that up, is because in the past, like, I've talked to artists like maybe off the record, you know, or off air, and they told me like about times where they felt pressured to make this style of music because that's what's currently popping. You know what I'm saying?
Were they signed artists?
Signed. Yeah, like,
well, that goes on in the industry, because if right now you got these 10 artists over here on the label and they're all popping from this sound, and this person is doing this whole other thing, and this is there's a scene that's happening here. Now this person's alienated. You get me? And that goes back to the same thing we spoke about before, right?
Yeah.
But if that person has enough pizzazz or swag or whatever you want to call it, where he can dress that up, then he can be his own individual and his own entity. And some people, you look in history like that, right? I'll give you some examples. ODB.
Yeah.
Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan, right? Lyrically, some would argue that he definitely wasn't the best in the group. But there was and some would.
Tough competition.
And some would,
group,
right?
You know what I mean?
Right. But his style, you know. Unique.
Come on now, yeah.
You know, nobody fathered his style. He came with that. You know what I'm saying? So I think you could follow the pack, or you could push the envelope, and you could try to just be you. You know, be the best you.
Yeah.
My friend Alan told my friend Jacob last night at dinner, find your super strength and do that and be you. You know, and that's really what I advise to people, because even when you try to fit in, if you ain't that, you're still not gonna fit in. The real ones are gonna know that that's not you. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm able to cross over to Europe and different places of the world, Cali, because guess what? I use the same moral compass with hustlers I meet out here, with gangsters I meet out here, with people who are in press, and I keep the same energy, and it's energy's full of love, gracefulness. I know my value though too. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
I have integrity with the types of people I want to connect with. You know what I'm saying? I need you to have good morals too. The fact that you say, yo, your show is curated, that's why we're here. Because guess what? If you was a person that you just doing randomly anything, I wouldn't have chosen either. True. I would have said, yo, we good on that. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at production. I'm looking at the kind of conversations. And you do your due diligence when you care more, when you're passionate about it. So loving something shouldn't come with trying to emulate something else because you want to fit in with the Joneses or be cool. You know, if you feel like that's the only way, you know, I heard Erykah Badu say this. There's artists that draw from pain. There's artists that copy others and mimic. And then there's artists that get told what to do. Which one are you? I'll tell you this. I'm the one that goes through pain. Because I never copy motherfuckers. And I never like to get told what to do. That's two facts, right? So I had to be arts. Because even if I try to dress up and be these things, the people who are in those buckets would be like, nah, man. And they probably even want to be accepting of it. You get what I'm saying?
Not for real,
Like I'm not soft by no means, right? I'm not a gangster by no means, right? But I stand up for what I believe in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
100%. And like you said, if I got a squabble against if I got the rejects with me, we do it, right? But I say that to say this. If I wanted to portray to be a gangster, right? I could do that because there's a lot of people out here doing that, and there's not really gangsters. You know what I'm saying?
They out there,
There's plenty of them, right? But eventually, the one good thing I've always been great about is I couldn't lie to myself in the mirror.
I feel that.
When you get to that bathroom and you drunk and you living that life and you faking a funk to the fullest and being somebody who you're not, and then you eventually start getting put into situations that then when you go home and you look in that mirror,
when you catch yourself being performative, like, come on, bro. You know what I mean?
Yourself is gonna tell yourself, yo, what the fuck is you doing? And you're either not gonna listen to yourself and keep falling under the influence, or you're gonna sit there and be like, you know what, I'm making this choice. You know, me and my one of my high school best friends, a kid named Darius, who super talented, one of the realest homies I've ever met in my life. You know, he chose the streets in a lot of ways, and it was because of his environment and how he grew up. But we were making music together at a very young age, and we were gonna drop a project called Skateboards and Bandanas just because of the lifestyles
associations
that we were both living. You know, there was times I'm walking home with the skateboarder kids and I'm kick pushing, Lupe Fiasco era, Kanye Pharrell era, right? But I'm still a homie from the hub, but I got on SB Dunks and I'm being on my fly shit. But then there's times when I'm walking home with him and we might have to get active, and now I'm caught in the center of that and I don't even know what's going on. But that's my man, so it is what it is, right? But I say that to say very early on I understood that people are living in these dissected worlds. You know what I'm saying? And you have to choose. You have to choose who you want to be.
They say that about New York. Not to cut you off. I'm sorry. They say that about New Yorkers. Like y'all really attentive. Like they know your environment type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But I would say influence is a thing that it goes through New York. It goes to LA. It goes everywhere, man. You know what I'm saying? And it corrupts people from being like truly themselves a lot of the time. So I love to preach like. It's like at the shows, you know how many times like I'm performing and there's a guy there with his girl and he's just like.
You could tell the ones, he's looking.
The girl's vibing though. The girl's vibing. And low-key, he vibing too, but he just wanted.
Got that masculine face on his steady face.
I get on the mic and I tell them, if you here with a girl, dance. Vibe. You ain't got nothing to feel cool about
move your shoulders a little bit.
You know what I'm saying? Like
just loosen up. Loosen up a bit, So I feel that.
I love that because there's no problem. there's no problem with people we meet. You know, and if there is, that means we created one, right? But when you meeting people on a regular level,
Yeah.
I know rappers that would have came in here like, oh, like,
Yeah, too cool.
they might have canceled if we couldn't smoke in the room.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, but
yeah, I've been around them. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you know what it is. But when you know, you're connecting with people, you have to just have an open palette to be able to like see who the person is and give them that benefit of doubt first and just have an experience. You know, we're having a really great conversation right now. You know, most of it ain't even about music or what I do creatively. Is about perspective. You know? Yeah,
well, it's that's what's good about like with podcasting. I feel like, as you know, as opposed to like a radio interview or something like that. Like especially what I do on the platform. Like we gonna highlight the music, which actually I want to bring up one specifically. But I like to be able to highlight the person itself, because that way the audience that's listening, the viewers, the fans, they get to get a glimpse into who you are first. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then they could dive deep in the music. But it's important to highlight themselves first and to give them a different, you know, perspective on just the simple or the comment, like, when is this dropping? When is this dropping? When is this dropping? Because to be honest, a lot of that stuff, you can find it easily. You know, you can find it on a website, on a flyer, on Instagram. What you can't really find is someone opening up more, you know what I'm saying, and talking about certain stuff. You know what I'm saying? But about the music, there's one track specifically that I wanna bring up. It's the Metaverse one.
The Alone in the Metaverse
Alone
album?
in the Meta. So
or the Road to Meta.
The Road to Meta, yeah.
Right.
So talk to me about that, because it's an interesting perspective, right? I feel like, you know, and the album hasn't dropped yet.
Yeah.
Oh, it already dropped.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a music is a music video, like you in that little cube one, right?
Yep.
That one. It was interesting. It was interesting to like take in, like I said, as a viewer, and to like kind of dissect it a bit. You know what I'm saying?
Please tell me what you got from.
Okay, so I'm trying to tell me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to figure out like what if there is like a messaging in it, or is it just you just rapping? You know?
No, it's for sure a message.
Message, right?
Yeah.
So
everything that I do,
everything is a message.
Yeah. Even if you hear me talking about the most toxic shit, it's pointed.
So is it running from something? Is it escape from everything?
It's a bit of both of those things in some ways. What it is being like trapped in the box, right? To the point where you can't experience because you're not allowing yourself to think outside the box. And that video is almost a perfect example. You know why? Because that video was done the same night we did the whole shoot for Keeping Receipts with me and Trinidad James, right? So that video wasn't scripted at all either.
Nah?
We were just in the location of the photo studio, and we were only using the left side, and there happened to just be this cube there. So they were like, my guys Caleb and Jael, who shot this with me, were like, yo, ARTZ, do you want to, like, we got 40 minutes left. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, damn.
So we shot that one shot, and then what happened was I went to Hawaii, and I GoPro'd a bunch of stuff by myself there.
Yeah.
And I shot more clips of me performing that same song. And as I was talking to Caleb about it when we were figuring out the direction of the edit and stuff like that, we spoke about being in the simulation, you know, but looking outwards and thinking about the moments of like when you were experiencing life on the beach, seeing the beautiful sunset, and now you're banging, trying to get out this box. So you know, and through the last couple of years of me being more engulfed in music, art, and tech sector, it allowed me to see that when pandemic hit and I was hosting a bunch of rooms on Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, there was a lot of people that just enjoyed the fact of being heard because they didn't have a telephone line to speak to somebody else, you know? Yeah. And it's because, one, the world was shut down, and two, a lot of those people were probably antisocial before.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, damn, yeah. I didn't think about that, yeah.
So when the Metaverse opened up and I started tapping into these things, it inspired that song because it's like, yo, you could be lonely here too. You know, this is a digital escape.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's kind of like what the messaging was. But yeah, you're running away from being a sheep, and you're trying to live,
Yeah.
And the road to meta is pretty much that. You know, I'm talking about a bunch of like accomplishments that I had in that year, but how, success is it looks pretty on paper.
Yeah.
But people don't always see the intricate parts that happen behind the scenes that get you to that spot and then leave you with this fucking wear and tear on your body where you feel like you just went through a war.
Damn.
You came out of it and you killed it, but people don't see like how hard you had to push to get through that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And even too, like like the visually, like the box. You know what I'm saying? That's the box. That's what it is. Okay.
All right. But I think the way you interpret it is just as right as whatever you think my answer was to that.
Yeah, no, it was pretty close. Yeah, because like I said, I was thinking like, is it running away from something? Is it an escape from something? Is it is it getting away from like the digital stuff? Is it being more like present to things? I was trying to figure out like an interpretation from it. You know what I'm saying?
So embracing the digital stuff, but understanding that nothing can change in real life interaction.
Gotcha.
Nothing can change this podcast happening right now, and the energy of me sitting across from you, looking you in your eyes. Yeah. Versus if we did this on a phone call.
AI can't do that. You know what I'm saying? AI can't do that. You know what I mean? It can't get that feeling. You know what I'm saying?
But I think when I say embrace it as well, it's like being able to add those things to your tool belt. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, if it makes it more convenient to do something this way, or it assists you in a better fashion. But I think the raw energy and the creativity, a live show, it's a different experience. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I've made my bread and butter at live shows and events, because people get to feel what I'm talking about. They hear the music and they hear the creativity and like, oh, okay, this is dope. But they get to feel it in its presence, and then they're able to take that experience and be able to identify with it as they're seeing me on the road, as they're seeing me doing this podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro. It's the live shows aspect of it that's just... You gotta witness. You gotta be there to like really get the full experience from it. You know what I'm saying? And you touring, and doing shows, even like, correct me if I'm wrong, besides solo ones. Being right now you're on tour with Currency, right? Just came back from LA, San Francisco coming up, and even Ari Lennox, I want to say too, right?
I didn't do a tour with her, but I did a song
with her, right? So even. Which I'm a fan of her, by the way.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Shea Butter, that's one of my favorite songs, Shea Butter. Shout out Cole. But it's the live aspects part, like I said, that people have to experience. You know what I mean? And for yours, that this show's coming up. Do you have like? Can you even say like you have like a set list already, or you just being like,
I do.
Y'all come out. Y'all come out.
Nah.
You got a set list
for sure.
Okay.
And sometimes my set list is what feels best, and not even like my biggest records. Like I don't perform the record I do with Ari Lennox, right? Or I don't perform the Styles P record, and I feel like those things are gonna happen when they're meant to happen, and I'm gonna bring those artists out. You know, me and Styles actually have done an event performing together, but not the song yet. I did a show a couple years ago in Art Basel where I brought out Busta, Nori, Murder Beats. Styles was in attendance. He rocked. So I wait for those moments to simmer and happen. And I'm in like a very gray area because I'm like the most indie artist but then I've been able to get the head nod from certain people that respect my musicality,
For sure.
And my hustle. So I'm utilizing those things to show people like, yo, you might have not heard me before, but when you discover this shit, you're gonna feel like you found something that you could really like rock with, something that feeds your soul.
And the catalog is there.
Catalog's there. Go explore, have fun. You just pointed out mad different tracks, right? And your interpretation on them, right? You could have just listened to the song and listened to the lyrics and beat. And I definitely want to hear what you thought in what the synergy was between the lyrics, beat, and the video. But how you broke down that video right now, you looked at it like art.
Yeah.
And that's what I want my music to continue to do for people, is contribute to your mood. One day you might be in your bag where you want to just, I got a couple homies that told me this week that they have sex to my music with they ladies.
Okay, okay, it's popping.
So there's reject babies out there. You know what I'm saying?
It's popping. It's popping.
And that is because of a mood we set.
Yeah.
I can only take credit for that. I got to shout my producers, my mixing engineer.
Come on now.
Okay. But I say that to
He's
say
making generational music, literally. Come on now.
Yeah, generational. We trying to tap into continue to do global music.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I speak to different people in real life. I have so many different real friends. It's going to be the same thing for my listeners. Perfect. And it might not, like you said, it might not fit in that niche of like, yo, this one style. But there's going to be a time where you're going to be like, yo, this is the best style. It's being able to be well-rounded and, you know, be on some John Jones or the rap shit.
Like, yeah, for
like,
real.
Like, what you want to do? You want to get hit with the elbow or the chokehold? Like,
it's a versatility, bro. Damn. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, damn, bro. We getting close to the time wrap on this one, but
amazing conversation.
But bro, for the people, before we close out, right? ARTZ, give them a message, like one thing that they could retain from you, one thing they could take away from you, final thoughts or whatever you want to say.
This is something that people fairly do, and I always give a different one. It can't be scripted, right? But I feel like in this moment of my life, I would tell people like, be willing to learn, be willing to share, be willing to trust, and believe. You know, believe in yourself. Don't trick yourself out of your own position and get in your own way with doubt and negative thoughts. The culture you create in your mind through habit and discipline and focus is going to create how you wake up and feel. And there's going to be certain days that might not feel too good, and there's going to be certain days that one thing might annoy you and rub you the wrong way. But, you know, just embrace it all. Embrace it all. The goods, the bads, the rocky moments, the moments where you're up, the moments where you're down, the moments where you're just breaking even. You know, because all of those things add to the story and the process of who you're going to become and what your life is going to be, you know. So that's my message.
Yes, sir. ARTZ, again, is performing at Harlow's with Currency. Is currently on tour. By the time this comes out, he's performing here at SAC Wednesday. Y'all know Harlow's. Been there plenty of times. In San Francisco this Friday, June 2nd.
June 1st.
June 1st. San Francisco this Friday. Y'all tap in. ARTZ, follow him on Instagram, follow him on YouTube, check out the Rejects brand. Just check out everything deep down the music. Y'all won't be disappointed, I promise. Y'all stay safe.
Peace. Love, peace.